I was telling, remind me your name again, sorry.
Pinchas.
Telling Pinchas, this is going into the nitty gritty, the heart of the book.
Okay.
Is chapter 11, is already the details of basically what we're talking right now. This chapter is about a list of things that, because either society says it's okay, or because we feel it's a matter of life and death, there's a lot of things that we justify to ourselves, and we say it's okay and it's fine, and when we look into it, it's really not. There's a famous story of a rabbi. Towards the end of his life, they asked him, is there anyone that ever proved you wrong? He said there was three people that proved me wrong: a young child, a young little girl, a little boy, and some woman. I'm not going to go through all the details, but basically one of the things he said was that he was walking to a city, and he asked, how do I get to the city? Where's the city? He asked this young child. The child said, you want to get to the city, then you go, where's the city? He said, right there. How do I get there? How do you get to the city? He said, right there. Go take the road like that. He says, what do you mean? There's a road right here that goes directly from here to the city. I see a path. He says, yeah, criminals like you turned that into a path. In other words, one person walked, another person walked. Now it was in a field. Look to the left, look to the right. What do you see? You see a field. Now you see that there's a path, but that's not a real path. One person did something wrong and walked through it and broke down the weeds. Another person, then a wagon, and then now it looks like a path, but it's not. In other words, there's a lot of things in our life that are wrong, and we're sure they're right, and society tells you it's right. But you need to look into it and make sure, is it right? So again, and that's one group of things, and there's other group of things that I try to justify to myself because my desires and because of my, like we spoke in last week, because we have what's called a natural bribery. That's something that's bribing us the same way a judge who's bribed, without even being aware of it, he will kind of tilt the scale, tilt the judgment to the side of the person to the favor of the side of the person that bribed him. And he's not even aware of it. He thinks he's doing what's justice. So we're right now in this chapter, like we said, the Ramchal, each chapter is broken down to 4 parts. Understanding the overview, we spoke about that last week. And then the details of what you got to do, and then motivation, and then upkeep and maintenance. So we're right now in what do you have to do if I don't want to, like they say, everyone does it, is not an excuse. Why didn't you check and see that it was the right thing to do? You have a brain. God gave you a brain, use your brain. Right? And there's no, exempting yourself from responsibility because everyone does it or because, right? So this is what's happening. Then we're going to go through a list of things. And the Ramchal made a list of things that have to do with our relationships with the people around us, and then our relationship with ourselves, our character, a whole list of things that the Ramchal is going to go through one by one, the things that he feels that are the most, pressing subjects and neglected. And then the Ramchal will say, if you basically master these things, you will become a tzaddik. A tzaddik is someone who does what is expected of him. It's a very high level. To be able to say, I do what is expected of me. And for example, a lot of people, let's say a person grew up in a non-Jewish neighborhood, and he knew he was Jewish, but didn't know any understanding of what that means. Will that person have to pay a price for the fact that they did not perform any Jewish laws or any, will they have to pay any price? Or you could say, grew up that way and he didn't know. He grew up in a non-Jewish neighborhood. Parents, he knew he was Jewish, that's it. The answer is yes. Because God gave you an intellect. God gave you a brain. And you have that brain, and that means that you have to ask yourself a question. The Jewish people for thousands of years practiced a certain belief. In the last 150 years, suddenly it went down. Why? The answer is because your grandparents or your great-grandparents started to ask questions. You know what the answers they got were? You're not allowed to ask questions. You have to ask the same questions. You didn't come out of a vacuum. You have to ask the same questions your parents asked. And if you don't get answers, then you could say, listen, I asked. There was no answers. Then you're okay. But to just say, this is how I grew up, these are my surroundings. No, you have an obligation. You didn't. Where do I come from? Who brought me into this world? What nation am I part of? What happened?
What changed that we stopped giving out the answers?
No, what changed was people had this simple faith of what I'm told to do, I do. And that changed. It was a whole movement in the world. People started asking questions about their religions. People got educated. So people started asking. And we were still in that place of don't ask. The Rav Kook, for example, said, I have to create a generation of rabbis who know to answer very deep questions in a very simple, short way. Because you get one chance. The person asks a question. If you don't have answers, goodbye. And the answers are there. If you ask the same questions that your great-grandparents asked, you will have answers. They didn't get answers, but you will. So there's a little, a glitch in the faith, in our understanding, but we will get back there. It's where we were, it's where we're going. So I think in the time of Rav Kook, 90% of the Jewish people believed in God 100 years ago. Jewish people believed in God, but he saw where it was going. He's like, it's gonna this is like.
But maybe now that we're asking questions and getting the answers, we not only will be doing it because we're told to, but we'll have a deeper understanding, and it will be an even deeper level of practicing Judaism out of more Ahavas Hashem.
Exactly. Same way a child goes from being a child and he does whatever he's told to do, to then making a choice to keep it. But it doesn't always have to go with a completely, getting rid of everything and then taking it on yourself. It should be a natural progression of, I did it because I was told, and now I'm doing it because I learned about it and I relate to it. But let's go back to the Ramchal. There's many things, there's a lot of things that we do and we're not aware of. A lot of things wrong that we do and we're not aware of. והינם ככל הפרטים בכל שסה מצוות לא תעשה, כי אמנם עניין המידה כבר אמרתי שהוא להיות נקי מכל ענפי עבירות. We're not talking just about not doing the thing wrong, but not doing the things that lead to it. Not doing the things that are connected to it. That's what we're talking about here. Like we said, we already got rid of the boulders in Zeirut. Now we're going through the pebbles. We're going through the stones that, the smaller stones that we don't really see. It's camouflaged. They're kind of, I'm not aware that they're there. We're doing a second sweep. Like we spoke in the beginning chapter, there's this force that's trying to pull you away from God. And it's there for you to defeat it and get stronger. Okay, it's not there to bring God. You have a Yetzirah and you have this force that's pulling you away from God, only for you to battle it. It's there for you to overcome it. It's not there. God's not looking to push you away from Him. He's looking to make it challenging, so you'll want it, so you'll work for it, and you'll deserve it, and it's yours, and it's part of getting strong. Like you go to the gym, and you have this opposition force that you go against, and that builds you up. Like we said, the Baal Shem Tov's had this nice parable of the king had a servant. He sent his servant into the crowd and said, servant goes in and says, let's rebel against the king. His taxes are so high. He's the worst king. He doesn't care about us. And then people say, yes, let's battle against him. He just writes down the name. No, what do you mean? He's a great king. What are you talking about? He writes down the name. That servant of the king is there for you to say, no, I don't want to go against him, right? God wants to know, where are you at? He's always challenging you to bring out your maximum potential. Okay, so we said, the Ramchal is saying, I can't go through everything, but I'll bring you the things that are the most pronounced, the things that are the most powerful, where the Yetzer Hara works the strongest, where your natural desire, right, is pulled towards it, and therefore your sechel, your intellect, is sort of bribed, and you make mistakes, right? Where are the things you need more? You need to be stronger. And what are those things? We're going to talk about two things. We're going to start with gezel ve'arayot, stealing and relations between men and women. These are two very powerful desires. Nafsho shel adam chabdan. We have this like need. It's a matter of life and death. If you don't have money, you won't survive. If you don't have, right, bringing life into the world, there's nothing more powerful than the experience of creating life, bringing eternity, attaching yourself to eternity, bringing a child, creating. You're like a creator. It's a very powerful force. These two forces, the need to live, to eat, to survive, is very powerful. The need to bring children into the world and to be eternal. It's like that's all people want, is to be eternal. Mm-hmm. So whenever you have something that is a major need, you got to be on guard that need doesn't go and basically devour all the other values of life. You have to be on guard because it's such a powerful need, and it's something that is essentials. You need to eat, you need to live, but not at all expense. You have to be on guard. Right? We are pulled more than anything else to these relations between men and women and to stealing. Why? Without money, I have no life. Money is not a negative thing. I just bought this book. These are classes that I went to of one of my rabbis. That's like the service of Hashem of Anshe Hamaseh. If you're working in the world, how do you serve God? What's your calling in life? How are you supposed to be honest and kind to other people and all this? What?
Business halacha.
Exactly. Business halacha, but also business morals, business values, moral value, ethics. Yeah, more philosophical, less details. The halachic. Right? So we're not saying that money and wealth is not a negative thing. If you don't have it, right? You can't do mitzvahs. You can't buy a lulav and etrog. There's a lot of things you can't do, right? You can't function. You can't say, I don't have money. I'll work out. I'll deal with it. So I don't have money. So whatever. It's not like that, right? Yaakov Avinu, he ran back to go get those little. He forgot a few jugs of oil. Why are you running back?
I heard the shot is different in that case.
Why?
I heard that the really, really, truly righteous, it's that he didn't really need it, but it's because Hashem gave him something. He's supposed to be so thankful for Hashem for every little thing that Hashem gave him that he can't abandon it, because that would be like spitting in God's face. Right?
And the Gemara says here something else. It says that tzadikim mamonam chaviv alehem yoter migufam. Lefi she'en poshtim yadam bagezel. Because they don't do things immorally, they don't steal. So whatever they get, whatever they own that they worked hard for, they value it. And they don't just, I left a few jars of oil, I'll just forget about it. No, I worked honestly and hard. Yaakov Avinu worked 20 years to have his finances. So he doesn't just say it's worthless, because you have value for something when you worked so hard for it. He worked honestly, and therefore he had value for his thing, right? So he doesn't waste anything. He knows it's hard to get, and therefore he relates to it in a very serious way. But still, as we said, the Rav Kook explains that this desire for money is very, very powerful because it has a spark of holiness. It like we said, it's a way to you take care of your children, and you can set up your family for generations, and you could do chesed, and there's a lot of things. You have like a very relaxed, you know that you're secure financially, so you behave in a very, in a different way, not in crisis. And the same thing with relations with men and women. If it wasn't for that desire, we know that famous story where the rabbis decided to get rid of the desire of between relations of men and women. And what happened? There was no chickens, didn't lay any eggs. If there was not that desire, we'd have no eggs, right? That reproductive desires are wonderful. But you have to keep it in order, right? If it wasn't for that, people wouldn't get married, they wouldn't have children, they wouldn't build houses, right? The whole world would get destroyed, right? They're so different. Men and women are so different. There's so many challenges. You need to have a very powerful glue to keep them together. To keep things going. That, how do you say, attraction between the men and women is a wonderful gift that helps keep the man and wife together, and has to be. No, toda raba. Okay. So we have to be responsible, and you have to be morally responsible. And when these desires get pulled to the wrong directions, then it's the destruction of the world. So the Ramchal is going to talk very long about the first idea. We said gezer, what we call stealing. Okay, not going with a gun and saying, "Give me your money," but other things that we're going to talk about right now. Right? Most people are not going to go and steal. Right? Or they go and take their hand into the guy's pocket and pull out his wallet and steal it. How many people are going to do that? Most people will, what we call, cut corners in business. They'll say this is okay. לעצמם להסתכר איש בהפסדו של חברו ואמרו להרוויח שני. They'll say when it comes to making money, what's the big deal if I make money at someone else's loss? It's always like that. If I'm making money, you're losing. You're paying it, now you don't have it. So you're losing. You're going to lose. It's just the reality of the world. And therefore, if I'm not stealing, but I'm making money at your expense, at your loss. Right? And that, in business, most people fall in this concept. They sell all kinds of, merchandise that's really harmed merchandise, right? Where you put a check and then it bounces, and it's a way to kind of get a few months until it you sort it out. There's all kinds of tricks. Meanwhile, the price goes down and blah blah blah. There's all kinds of ways people do it. And it's for example, I got a job. One point I decided I didn't want to be doing fundraising. I wanted to go into high tech. I got a job working for someone. I said, okay, what are we doing? We're selling software to people to open their own family business, their own private business at home. I said, great. How many people use it? How many people make money out of it? What are the numbers? I need to know statistics. What? The only statistic you need to know is how many can you sell. What are you talking about? They said to me. I said, no, I need to make sure it's halachically kosher. What do you mean halachically kosher? So I went and I did my research. They said, well, we had tens of people come here and work in this job. They start working, they try to sell, they either sell or they don't, and they move on. No one comes and asks how many people are using. I said, yeah, because I have a different understanding of what is the relationship to to money. Relationship to money is all about connecting people. Yaakov Avinu, it says that when he came to Shechem, he instituted 3 things: bathhouses, making a marketplace, and creating a coin. Why was it? Because before that, Yaakov Avinu saw the purpose of business is for people to have relationships. And if I have commodities and you have commodities, if I have tomatoes and you have cucumbers, so we meet, it's very limited. I meet you to get your cucumbers, you meet me to get my tomatoes. It's only a certain time of year, and that's it. We're done. If there's a coin, now we can trade coins. We can do it then, and there's a marketplace. We can get together. Yaakov Avinu did this. That's his invention.
He invented money. Sam?
He invented a certain a marketplace where people come and trade money.
So before then, it was just barter system, and now we have money.
Exactly. And Yaakov Avinu invented this. Why did he invent this? Because Yaakov Avinu saw it's a social subject.
Not very common.
It's a social subject. It's about people meeting with each other. I want to make people meet as much as they can. That's why it says the first question when you get to Shemayim, they ask you. There's a Gemara in Shabbos that has a whole list of things they ask you when you come to heaven. One of the first things they ask you is, Nasata v'natata be'emunah? Did you do business honestly? What is this word? Nasata? Did you give? And did you take? Honestly. If the purpose of life that you have is to make money, so there's nobody else on the other side. I need to make money. And you're just a tool for me to make money. You don't even exist, so I don't care if you lose. But if the purpose is, I want to do something that helps you, I want to do something that you gain, I care more about you than me. And if you care more about me than you, that's the most healthy. Like I say here, take this for $1,000. No way. I need to pay you $1,500. It's worth much more. You should be telling that to me. I should be saying no. In other words, people are supposed to care about each other, and not every person all he sees is himself. So if Nasata, was there 2 people? Was there a give and take? Was there like a communication? Or was there just you and your desires? And everyone else is there to feed your desires. To get you more money in your bank account. And by the way, just to not keep you hanging, so at the end of I took this software to this place called Machon Meir. It's a place where they evaluate technology and halacha. They evaluate the whole thing, what we sell, how we sell it, to who we sell it, everything. And this is a very common subject called biz ops. It's like selling people opportunities to open their own business. And they looked into it and they came to me with a psak. You have to tell the buyers that they should know that a majority, because the numbers are very low, of people that actually use it and succeed. You show an example of someone who took this, made their own home office, and made tons of money, became a multimillionaire. But those numbers are very small. Whether you need a personality for it, maybe there's too many people in the market, maybe it's just hard to do. Maybe, you know what I'm saying? There's a lot of different reasons. So you have to tell the person, by the way, a majority of the people, even if it's 99%, you have to say a majority of the people don't succeed. And then you can sell it. Because then the person knows. So I said, let's do this. The person said, no way, I could never say this. If I say this to people, no one will buy it. A person, the reason why he goes is because he thinks I'm for sure going to succeed. But I'm saying, I don't understand. Like on cigarettes, it says straight out, you're going to die, you're going to get cancer, and here's a picture of a guy dying. Like, who knows? It's like gruesome pictures, but people still buy the cigarettes. People do stupid things. I guess I would think people would say, wow, the person's so honest. He cares about, I don't know. The bottom line didn't work, and I wasn't meant to be in that place. But, so people have this concept. When it comes to making a living, everything is permitted. Because this is a matter of emergency. This is a matter of this is a war. By the way, the Rav Kook said, in the non-Jewish world, education has one goal: to prepare you for the battle of life. The war, there's a limited amount of right. There's a limited amount in the world, and you have to be the best, the fastest, the strongest. Right, the law of the fittest.
It used to be like that.
The law of the fittest.
I think nowadays,
and by the way, and when
to teach you how
How to be a
what to think, not
transgender.
how to think. I teach you what to think, not how to think.
You know, when you look in the
It's a
Torah,
different world.
when you look in the Torah, when Avram Avinu meets Sodom, if you look at that conversation, there's like 10 times where Sodom says kach, kach, vayikach, vayikchu. They're taking. Avram Avinu, what does it say about him? Heye bracha. Avram Avinu goes and gives people food, brings in people that don't have food. They say to him, why are you doing this? He says, thank God for giving to you. What do you mean, thank God? Thank you. You worked, you bought it, and you gave it to us. Okay, pay me. No. God, thank you. Great, right? Avram Avinu was teaching the world a new concept. It says about Avram Avinu, veheye bracha. You will be a blessing. What is bracha? It means like a brecha. It means a pool. There's an endless amount of wealth, of goodness for God to give the world.
It's the same root.
Yeah, bracha, brecha. Same letters. Brecha means a pool.
Okay, interesting.
God is giving us, like, people were so afraid. You can't have children because of global, how do you say? Overpopulation. You can't have children.
Global warming.
Who knows, right? But then with the Industrial Revolution, machines can now, like, people used to work 90% of the time. They used to work just to have bread on the table, 16 hours a day. 90% of people, more, 99% of people. Now you have machines, they do everything, right? You can make, there's enough food in the whole world for everybody. We don't distribute it correctly, but there is enough and there's no problem. So Avram Avinu is trying to teach the world. You don't need to be in this kind of grabbing. So Rav Kook said, in the world, there's one purpose for education. Prepare you for the battle of life. From kindergarten, they're preparing you that you're going to be the smartest, the fastest, the strongest. You're going to get the job. You're going to be the best at it, right? Because someone else is going to get it, and you need to get it first. Rav Kook said, in Jewish education, we have two goals. Goal number one, lasot adam tov v'yashar, to create a person who is honest and who is good. Then the second thing is, yes, you need tools also, the physical tools to become a businessman and to do whatever, like you make a living. It's also important. But the goal number one is lasot adam tov v'yashar. Make a person, and how do you do that? Through Torah learning. Torah learning is what teaches you, and especially learning Musar, is what teaches you how to be a good and honest person. So this is what he says. So when the people say, oh, it's just to be, it's business. It's a matter of Ve'ulam lavim harbe nemru begezel. Don't think that just standing on the side of the road and kidnapping somebody or hijacking them or and by the way, it's an immoral story. The story of what's his name? What's the guy that Robin Hood steals from the rich to give to the poor? That's not it's not a moral story. There's a story here of
well, it's not just the rich; it's also the corrupt rich
right,
who are stealing from the poor in the first place.
But the idea of stealing from rich to give to the poor is wrong. That's not the way to do it.
Correct.
Right? That's not the message we want to give. That rich people are evil and bad, and we have to steal from them because they're thieves, so they do everything dishonestly. So we'll steal from them, and then everything's okay. Right? There's a story here in the Gemara.
There's like two wrongs.
There's a great story, exactly. A story in the Gemara the Gemara Brachot, that Rav Huna, one day, 400 of his barrels of wine turned into vinegar. The rabbis came and said, so what do you think you did wrong? They said, you're actually how do you say? You're accusing me of doing something wrong? He said, well, we have two choices. We can accuse God for doing this for no reason, or we can accuse you. Which one would you rather accuse? Do you know something about me that you're not saying? Come on, talk. Well, yes, we do know. You had a worker, and you didn't pay him the full amount that you agreed on. Of course I didn't pay him the full amount I agreed on. He steals 10 times the amount that I'm supposed to pay him. They said, okay, then confront him. But don't you withhold his part of his paycheck. And then he said, you know what? You're right. Even though he does something wrong, doesn't make me be able to do something wrong as well. And then it says there's two opinions. One says that it turned back to wine. Another opinion says that there was a shortage of vinegar and he ended up making 100 times more than he would have made if he would have had the. So this is tough. Like we said, these are very, very difficult desires that we have. And therefore you need to always be on guard. You need to be aware. You need to be thinking about it, looking into things, not just say everyone does it, not just say, because I have a desire for it, it's okay.
How about a question? Regarding our study in the parasha, the children of Israel, they come out from Israel. Then God asked them to borrow some from neighbor.
That's a good question. That's a
they
good
don't
question.
return.
So that's a great question. How did the Jewish people? They went to the Egyptians. They asked to borrow their how do you say, jewels and gold and everything, and they stole basically.
I mean, they were slaves for 70 years.
And that you should know, this actually happened in the Gemara. It talks about it. I think it was Alexander Magdan. He said to the Jewish people, I want you to come to court to explain why you stole the money from the Egyptians. Okay? So he came. So they didn't know who was going to go. And there's a guy named Bava ben Sisa. He said, I'm a simple person, I'll go. He obviously wasn't so simple. He went. They said, look, it says in the Torah, you stole all of this wealth. He says, yes, we worked for 210 years without pay. So whatever we took is not even a fraction of what they owed us. And then he said, you're right, and that was it. End of story.
I have a different question for you.
It's a good question. But it actually was discussed in the Gemara. And there was a court case about this. But also, what does it say there? It says that they gave them willingly. They asked him for gifts, and they gave it as a gift. Right? They said, like, please take it. They said they gave them even more than they asked for. They were begging them to take it. At that point, they saw the Jewish people, they understood their value, and they wanted to give them gifts. So even if it's not on the level of what they owed them, they gave them gifts.
This may be coincidental because I know it wasn't us who instituted the Parakim and Psukim system. It was the Greeks and the Christians, but I'm looking over here where it says that there's various commandments against stealing. You can't steal, you can't rob, you can't lie, you can't this, you can't that. And a lot of them are lining up as pasuk Yud Gimel or Yud Dalet. Yud Gimel and Yud Dalet. Yud Gimel and Yud Dalet. Is there something to that?
That's a good question. I don't know. I have a great article about what you just mentioned. Why, like that, how the philosophy of the Christianity is built into the order they made of the psukim. We can't change it back. There is a Tanakh that is according to our order. Koran has one. But we can't change it because all the books are based on these already. All the books in our whole library are based on the original Tanakh. But the philosophy of Christianity, of the original sin, of that you can't do tshuva, everything is based on how they put in the order of the psukim. It's fascinating. I have it here. I have it. I'll show you. You read Hebrew? I have it. It's in Hebrew. Okay. Anyway, well, I have it. It explains it. It's very fascinating. Okay, next. So we said, and you can see that Ulam lavim harben emu begeze. Lo tignov. Lo tigzol. What does it mean? Torah doesn't just say don't steal. It says don't steal. And it says a different form of lo tigzol. The Torah doesn't add extra words, right? In other words, don't do it directly. Don't come to a guy and say, give me your money. That's lo tignov. Lo tigzol. Don't go and hide and do it at night where no one sees it. Lo ta'ashok. Don't, if you owe somebody money, don't withhold the salary. Don't, right? That's another type. Right? Pay according to the time that you agreed on. Lo tekachashu v'lo tashakru ish ba'amito. Someone lent you money. Don't say, no, you didn't. Right? You're just holding back the money. You're not like, I'm not stealing. I'm just not giving him what's his. That's another thing that you're not allowed. The Torah goes into detail. In other words, these are things, like we said, These are things that people think that, oh, if you don't do it, wow, you're on such a high level. But the Torah goes through. This is like black and white. Look, we're in the Torah. Not that the rabbis had to explain it. Lo tonu ishet achiv. Don't sell someone some kind of produce that is ruined or that is not working well. Lo tasig vulrecha. Right? That's already more refined. Don't go and open a store right next to the guy did all the advertising, telling people to come here, and he built his clientele. And then you go and you open a store right next to it, and you take a ride on all of his efforts and his work, and you steal all of his clients. These are all examples of stealing that are much different types, and how it's not just what you think, don't steal. Because people justify everything else. In other words, that's why the Shulchan Aruch, right? We know it says, where that famous thing where Hillel says, everyone knows the famous story of the person says, tell me the whole Torah in 1 foot. What you don't want done to you, don't do the others. And what else? Ve'idach zilgmo. Now go and open the books and learn the details of how to reach that. That's not just like, okay, I don't like when somebody wakes me up at 12 o'clock at night, but I don't care. I'm up at 11, so I don't care, so I won't do that to them. No, there's very detailed, there's books and books and books to explain the details. It's not enough to understand the big picture. You have to know the details. And that's why the Torah gives so many in the Shulchan Aruch, there's so many, chapters that deal with these questions. Because this is all about relationships. And relationships are complex issues. And therefore, you need to understand all of the nuances. So not just the famous, known prohibition of stealing, anything that will lead to stealing is just as wrong. Anything that will lead to you making money in an inverted way, not in a righteous way. And that's what it says in the Gemara. There's a whole list in the book of Yechezkel of like, what does it mean, a good person? And it goes through like praising a good person, like a person that's like really a person of value, a whole chapter. And then suddenly when it's talking about these, like this whole list, it says, and this person is so great. He did not go and have relations with his neighbor's, his friend's neighbor, wife. What? That's like not even like a question that like, what does that mean? So it means, right? That's what you want to say, that like he's so great because he didn't even sleep with the wife of his friend. He didn't even
break one of the 10 Commandments. Wow, what a guy!
That's what? There has to be something else here. So the Gemara explains, when you hear something that makes no sense, what is the Torah trying to? What is the prophet trying to say here? He says no, it's a parable, right? It means shelo yarad le'emunut chavero. In other words, he did not go and steal the how do you say, like we said, a person opening up a store. I didn't go and take away the livelihood of another person. That already people do, and they it's not very clear, right? For example, and it says that, so it says a person didn't approach on his territory. In other words, a person who has a business, he's married to it. Think about how much time we put into our work. We put in 8 hours a day, right? That's like a third of our life, a third of our day. We put into our work. People put much more, but it's like it's a relationship that you're married to your work on a certain extent. That's what the prophet is talking about here, And then the Ramchal just brings here, like, just explaining it a little bit, because it's not simple. There's a machloket in the Gemara Bava Metzia whether are you allowed to give out free candy or gifts to children, so that they'll pull their parents to come. Rabbi Yehuda said you're not allowed to. It's not moral behavior, right? You put a little toy into a cereal box, and that way you get the kid to say to his mother, I want it. But it has nothing to do. Is it good for him? Is it like you're using techniques, psychological techniques? And Rabbi Yehuda says you're not allowed to do it. You want to show through advertising that your produce is better. You want to show the positive qualities of it. That's okay. But if you're pulling people in a way that has nothing to do with anything,
you're using their kids.
You're using their kids as collateral, as how do you say?
Low.
As it's pretty low. You're using the kids as a way to pressure them to buy things. They can't handle their kids whining and screaming and asking for it. That's not moral behavior. So Rabbi Yehuda said you can't do it.
So I have a question.
And also advertising. Advertising is a very powerful tool. Now, obviously it works. People spend during the Super Bowl millions and millions of dollars for each second of. They're not idiots because it works. It's psychological. It works on your whatever it is. It works on whatever it works on. It works. So then he says you can do it. It's not honest, right? In other words, you're pulling people in a demagogic way without, right? You're not convincing people in a way that is sense. I'm convinced you to buy this because look, it's the quality, look at the strength of it. Look, it will last you for 10 years instead of, you buy that, it will last you for a week. This will last you for 10 years and we give you warranty, whatever. That's okay. But in the end, the rabbis let a person do that. Why? Because you also can do it also. Okay, you know what I'm saying? You could also, it brings down the prices when other people can do it, and it helps the consumer, the fact that there's competition between the different salespeople, but it's not simple. In other words, if you have a monopoly and you now sell, if you sell things that is completely under market, then that's halachically not allowed. Again,
if you have one kosher supermarket in your town, and that supermarket puts all the candies at the front of the store, is that halachically forbidden?
That's what we're trying to say. It's not simple. Again, these are psychological techniques that people use. Like when you go into a store, it's always like this. The bread and the milk, the things you need most, are always on the back. If you ever want to know where's the bread and milk, never ask anybody. Just know that it's the furthest away because they want you to go through all the things that are non-essential for you to get to the essentials. They don't want you to run in and run out with getting what you need. And they have the greatest minds and psychologists working day and night to think how to seduce you, how to pull you into buying things you don't need. ואמרו, זיכרונם לברכה, the rabbi said, קשה גזל אידיוט מגזל גבוה, שזה הקדים חטא למעילה, וזה הקדים מעילה לחטא. What does that mean, גזל גבוה? In other words, it's harder than if you steal from a person than if you steal from God, right? In other words, there's a lot of psukim, a lot of things that it's more serious that you're stealing from a person than even doing so, right? And וכבר פטרו את הפועלים. The Gemara explains that the rabbis have exempt the workers that work from saying Birkat HaMotzi u'Birkat HaChonot u'Birkat HaMazon. So you won't steal time from your employee. Right? This morning my daughter played me a song she thought was very funny. It was a song about having a business car. And the whole song was about how you have a business car. I'll drive you wherever you want. I can make the car dirty. I can right? It's a business car. I'll drive anywhere you want. I'll do. Who cares if I bang into the wall? Why don't you have any caring? It's the same subject. Why don't you care about your employer? You should care about your employer. You should have a moral compass that you're putting in your hours. You should not be using his materials. You should not be without permission. You should not be wasting time nobody has any idea, especially now with the phones. They're on their phone all the time, watching games, playing Tetris, blah, blah, blah. But you're being paid by hour for a time. That's part of the reason why I couldn't be an employee.
There's a saying in
I couldn't be
America, boss makes $1, I make a dime. That's why I use the bathroom on company time.
Exactly. And that is why, for me, I felt it was so difficult because I wanted so much to be moral and honest, and I felt it's so hard to be an employee and really do it right. Here they're saying that the rabbis exempt you from saying Birkat HaMazon and Birkat HaMotzi. In other words, don't be holy on my expense. Suddenly, I'll start davening with kavana and shuckling.
It'll be my best davening ever.
Best davening ever. I need an hour to say korbanot and everything else, right? Even though so the rabbis basically exempt you from the Rabbanan mitzvot. You don't have to say Amotzi, right?
You still have to say on it to us
And
time, right?
Yeah, exactly. They exempted you from these things, even though Birkat HaMazon you have to say the first one, but not the last three, or the Rabbanan, right? The halacha is that, right, only the fourth bracha you could not do. You want to do a mitzvah, you want to bench, that's wonderful. But not on the expense of your employer. Today we know every employer says, I let you bench, you can say all the benchings, you can do every employer, it's even in the law, they give you a half an hour to daven mincha. If you're working a full-time job, it's actually in the law that you get the time for mincha, and you get, right? It's not simple. I mean, a place I don't know, different places have maybe different things, but the places I worked, they actually gave you time to daven. And if you see that you're gonna daven, if you're gonna daven longer, so you can maybe add at the end. You know what I'm saying? It has to be. It's very serious. It's not a joke. I know people think it's just a joke and this and that, but it's not. And ואפילו בקריאת שמע לא חייבום לבטל מלאכתן אלא בפרשה הראשונה בלבד. That's even more serious. The Shema Yisrael. And they said, just do the Shema Yisrael, the first part. Just not to steal, be over on taking away from your employer's what he's paying you. Right? Kal v'chomer, b'no shel kal v'chomer, the divrei reshut. Now you're going to go, write letters, talk, hang out. That's not even a question. Shekol sechir yom asur bahen shlevatem elech bal habayit im avar gaznan. Because if you're not doing your job, it's in Hebrew it's called musar avodah gavoha. What's your work ethic levels, right? What's your work ethics levels? And that's an example of all these things that you're not clean if you're doing that. Again, we are saying if a person doesn't do these things, we're saying, okay, they don't know, they're not aware, everybody does it. So we're judging people favorably. But if you're here learning this, you're learning things that might be hard to hear. That you have to take this very seriously. A person's, if you're working for somebody, you're working for them. And you have to act accordingly, as if it was your own work. הנה אבא חלקיה, אפילו שלום לא השיב את תלמידי החכמים שנתנו לו שלום, שלא יבטל מלאכת רעהו. He was right? Abba Chilkiah was the grandson of Chonia Me'agel. He was a big tzaddik nistar, right? Once there wasn't raining. There was no rain. And they came to him to ask him to daven. He wasn't home. They went to the field. They said, hello. He wouldn't answer. When he came home, they said, why wouldn't you say hello? And he said, what do you mean? I'm working and I can't stop. Right? But saying hello is not even like nothing. Hello. For that second, I'm not working. That's how much he was, and the rabbis asked him to daven and he did it. He davened and it rained, and he didn't even tell his kids, he didn't tell anybody, not even his wife, that it rained because of him. So they shouldn't think, he's so great. He was like a real tzaddik nistar, and he would hide his greatness. Okay? And why was he able to bring rain? Because he was so precise in his rain is the finance, and he was so exact and so careful that because of him, rain would come down. Right? The Yaakov Avinu alav shalom mevaer b'fiv omer. Yaakov Avinu, it says it in his words. Ve'ayiti bayom achalani chorev ve'kerach balayla v'tidad shnati meina. I didn't sleep. Yaakov Avinu, they want to learn what is honest in morality of an honest worker. It says, I didn't sleep at night. Right? There's a halacha that if you were working, right, you're not allowed to work at night and then rent yourself out to work in the day because you're too tired. You're stealing from the person.
I tried that once. I did
you're not functioning.
2 days.
That's a halacha. If you're tired, you're not functioning. You're not right.
Yeah.
You're not allowed to work with your animal at night and then rent it out in the morning. Right? It's tired. There's a lot of things that you need to be aware of. Look at Yaakov Avinu. Yaakov Avinu, we said, I worked with all my strength. He tells his wife when he wanted to leave. I worked for your father with all my strength. I did everything I could, right? And therefore, he became he became very wealthy, right? So don't think, and this is an important thing, don't think, what do you mean? I'm going to be honest. I'm not going to do all these tricks. I'll be poor. Really? Look at Yaakov Avinu. He did everything 100% according to the book. Everything honest.
It's like Meiser. If you give away, you'll become
even
more
though,
rich.
and that's what we learned from Yaakov. He came out the most rich person, but not just Meiser. We're talking about a lot of people could do immoral things, give Meiser and feel good. I'm so honest. Like for me, I'm disgusted when I meet somebody and I ask them, oh, what's your business? I have a gambling. You should be ashamed that you're working in something that destroys lives, something that is immoral. And by the way, that's a good question. Why do we start to talk about finances and not about sexual and relations between men and women? Why? Isn't it more powerful, that desire? The answer is, it's much harder to be honest in business because
there's so many little things.
Because a person who does dishonest business and becomes super wealthy is very respected, accepted in society. He could donate and have his name on buildings. He could people value him, even though he got there and he made his money through immoral and not kosher ways. But when it comes to relations between men and women, a person who does relations, rapes a young girl or whatever it is, people, they look down on him.
Not in America.
I hope
the norm
they do.
there.
So the rule is, right, so this is what we're saying here. You think you're doing a mitzvah while you're working? This is not a mitzvah. It's wrong, right? And so on. So, he goes on and on. Basically, we're not going to go through everything, but we basically touched on this idea of the finances.
Rabbi, is it allowed to ask for discount, something like that?
Sure.
Negotiate is kosher.
Again, negotiations is wonderful. I come towards you, you come towards me. That's the purpose of the why there's business. I say to you, can you, but not in a way where you want to destroy the other person. If it's in a way where you say, look, all I have is this amount. I would love to pay you your amount that you want, but I don't have it. Okay, listen, I'll do it for you. And by the way, if let's say you do heavy negotiations on some, you want to buy a jacket, and the guy wants 1,000, you get him down to 10, and you won. You walk out of there, I won. Then you walk out of there, you zip up your zipper, it's broken. You come back to me, oh really? You won me, now I won you. So you don't really gain, because it's all about a relationship. A person should feel good, even though he gave you a good deal. He should say, I'm happy with it. I'm happy, you couldn't do it. But it's a matter of being honest. I want you to gain, but you're not going to gain. If you have someone else that will buy it for more, then do it. But this is the only amount that I have to pay. What do what can you do? Or can you give me a discount? That's fine, but not in a way of I'm going to destroy you. That's what we're saying. People tell themselves, if it's a matter of for me to gain, then everything, all of the means are permitted, because this is a matter of gaining. So I don't care who loses, right? And this is the Torah, and it goes on and on. It's very deep. I mean, you should go through it and read it. It's very clear. It's simple. That all of these things of like how many subjects there are. And next week not next week, in the following class, we'll start the relations between men and women that are very serious as well. That we need to be aware of. So thank you.